Some people might watch this and say, well, young people don't vote. Is that a problem?
Jobs, housing and feeling forgotten by politicians. These young voters in South Gloucestershire tell Seb what they want from our next government.
People kind of like to bury their head in the sand because, you know, if they don't know what's going on, then there's no issues.
Well, next to young voters and what matters to them most when we go to the polls in 2 days' time.
Well, I met with a group of students at the Cotswold Edge Sixth Form in Yate in South Gloucestershire and asked them about their thoughts on the current state of politics.
I think it tends to be quite jokey, you know. I think the way that people find information about politics is usually more about politicians making a fool of themselves.
From what our generation is used to, is that we're so used to social media that almost anything can become a meme or just a joke that we can't take it seriously.
It's quite like a trickle-down system as well, especially when you're getting your sort of political knowledge from social media, because you're getting it from like third parties. Like it's come from the news, then that gets digested by like even more biased like places. Like it's just you are so misinformed if you just get it from social media.
I think when I hear about politicians targeting younger people, it makes it sound like we're the only ones who are radical, pushing for new ideas and things like that. But surely everybody wants to live on a planet that is functioning.
Is there an element that some people might watch this and say, well, young people don't vote. A lot of young people don't vote. Is that a problem? Do you find that with your friends who's kind of blasé about voting?
Yeah, I think it's quite infuriating the amount of people like, it doesn't affect me. People kind of like to bury their head in the sand because, you know, if they don't know what's going on, then there's no issues.
But also it's our generation that it affects the most, realistically, because we are the upcoming generation. It's just become really messy. Your
generation, I guess, has not really known a period of stability. There's been Brexit, there's been 4 prime ministers, there's been a cost of living crisis, there's been COVID. It's been one thing after another.
I feel like I don't remember when we've had a prime minister for the correct amount of time. Like, we've had one for like 42 days or however long that was, and then we've had one for a couple of years here and there. I don't even remember who was voted in to start with. That's how many times it's changed.
How does that affect you mentally?
It just sort of gives you a lot of anxiety, really, because you're very unsure of what your future's going to look like.
Do you think politicians are out of touch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they're trying a bit too hard for our generation sometimes, in the sense of what they're trying to do right now with like being funny or trying to reach out to us or like trying to be kind of keeping up with the current like trends, I guess.
Let's talk about jobs, housing, family. You know, do you feel positive at all?
We're not asking the government to create a utopia. We're just asking them to get people like the NHS and teachers the money that they deserve.
But what about housing? Do you worry about even getting on the property ladder?
Don't get me started.
That's so hard right now.
To move out at a young age, you'd have to move in with at least like...
Yeah, we've talked about moving in
5 other people, like, depending on where you want to go.
Do you see yourselves going on a property ladder anytime soon?
No.
No,
Not
anytime soon, definitely not. I mean, probably 30s is like, that's the youngest I can see myself being able to economically fund doing that.
Okay, final question. Feeling confident about July 5th?
No.
Okay. Well, on that note, thank you so much. I do appreciate that because you guys are amazing. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, earlier we spoke to Dr. Tom Oliver, who's a senior lecturer in politics at the University of West of England.
We asked him if he often hears pessimism from younger people when they're talking about politics.
There's an interesting thing this election in terms of the parties not having a very, very strong offer to young people, which is fascinating given the massive challenges for young people in terms of getting on the housing market, access to work, all those kind of things. But that kind of core vote proposition being offered by the main parties in particular isn't appealing to young people that much.
Do you think there is an apathy, or do you think a distrust? Because we're hearing that young people aren't going to vote, but why? Can't they be bothered, or do they just think, what difference will it make?
There's an interesting kind of tension between young people, according to Ipsos, young people are most likely to be politically participating, but that will be through sharing petitions, accessing and sharing things on social media. If that could be transposed across to the ballot box, those kind of 2.5 million voting young people could be making a big difference.
Social media doesn't seem to have played its part, really, has it?
We haven't seen huge amounts of kind of sponsored advertising and targeting advertising on social media. We've seen kind of memes and captures and short videos, but campaigning has somewhat stalled on social media.
It feels like the politics itself is out of touch.
I would say so, in terms of kind of hitting home, in terms of covering the grand issues for lots of kind of sectors of the electorate. It's a very much a core vote strategy and not reaching those different areas of debate that appeal to many people, including young people.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because some of your students said that when they did try and go on TikTok, politicians, it just wasn't really cool.
Yeah, a bit cheesy, not really hitting home. They realised the politicians that they should be there, but maybe they're not striking the right tone yet.
As regards to just scare tactics as well, there are a lot of scare tactics going around. That hasn't played well.
Yeah, that's something we've noticed from our research with the qualitative elections study, that people are seeing that parties are talking about what the other party is going to do and the threat of that, rather than having a positive voting for proposition that's going to encourage people to go out and put that cross in a box against that party.
And how much weight do you think the young voters got?
A huge amount. If we think we've got kind of 2.5 million young people around here in the West Country, if those voters, or if they're students going back to home constituencies, which could be marginal, they could be tipping the scales in those constituencies too.
Before we finish, I have to ask you, are you worried by this pessimism and apathy?
I don't know. The elections are decided by the people that turn out. Apathy is always a problem, and we just encourage our political class to kind of inspire and get out. And they're working very hard, the activists, the campaigners, the candidates. Especially amongst young people. Especially amongst young people. This year we've seen a core vote strategy that hasn't hit home to young people, and that's an interesting thing, particularly this year.
Dr. Tom Oliver, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
Let us know what you think. Our emails are always open.
Yeah, it really is a genuinely interesting debate, isn't it?